Sundays, 6 nights a week. Well, the best in contemporary radio comedy, anyway. Coming up in an hour, the Nimmo twins present a Dickensian fantasy about a man with a horrifying secret. In Hair in the Gate, Camilla drastically changes the show to prove to Robert she's not all mumsy and conventional. And up next, it's comedy of the very finest quality in On the Hour.
Brand new comedy on BBC 7.
My name's Gregory Daniel Davis.
Hi, I'm Stephen Richard Barclay Hall.
And I must be Marek Larwood.
And we are Clang! We've done a radio show, and the purpose of this is A, to tell you about that radio show, and B, to warn you that if any of you little geeks get on an internet forum after you've listened to any of the episodes and slag us off, unlike a lot of sketch groups, we will find you.
We Are Clang, Thursday nights in the Comedy Club at 11, here on BBC 7.
Don't believe a word of it. They're a right bunch of sissies. Although, to be honest, one of them, Greg, is physically alarming. And this week sees Clang relating the story of Gummy Monkey, the long-running West End musical show. On the Hour is coming up in a couple of minutes after another episode of this.
The Chain Gang.
Gary's given Dina a digital camera for her birthday, when she had hoped for a trip to Paris. But when she plugs it into her computer, it seems to show her pictures of the trip, ending with an image of Gary's death. Picture this. Episode 2 by Ian Mackenzie. Numbly, her eyes shifted between the image on screen and the camera in her hand, not knowing what to look for, what might be significant. It was like 1,000 other cameras. Absent-mindedly, she took a couple of shots and loaded them into her computer, which greeted her again. "Welcome back, Dina," it flashed. Her room was reassuringly as she expected, the usual clutter of her life filling the screen, her notice board a kaleidoscope of the things to do that she never quite got round to. But where she'd zoomed in on the park up the road, the image made her gasp. The park she could see from her window was a bit unkempt, a bit of down-at-heel gentility in an area that constantly aspired and regularly failed to be upwardly mobile. But this park, in the image on her screen, was a thing of wonder. Incredibly tidy flower beds, huge trees with branches spreading over picnic benches, a swirling track on which a group of garish inline skaters were racing. So many times as she waited for the bus, she had thought of ways to improve the park, but had never imagined this.
Can you join the Chain Gang and write the next instalment? Find out how at bbc.co.uk/BBC7.
So she gets the camera, realising its amazing new potential, and she takes a picture of herself and she puts a picture on this internet dating website because she's not that good looking, to be honest. But through the camera, she's an absolute stunner, blonde hair, figure to die for. She gets loads of attention, goes out on dates, and all these blokes going, "What are you on about? You're not 6'2" and you blue eyes, blonde hair, and a cracking... Wait, get out of it!" And then she does a picture of the house and she puts it on the market, and then people come around and say, "It's horrible, this," and she goes to prison under the Trades Misdescriptions Act. Yes. Now, if you want to have a go at doing the next instalment, you can. You could go on the website, bbc.co.uk/BBC7. But I think I've just about, nailed that one for episode 3. But, have a go. What harm can it do?
BBC 7's Comedy Club with Alex Riley.
Now, from 1991, a small child points out the stupidity of some popular ball sports, and we get a test drive of the new Vauxhall Nova. It's on the hour, right after this very important announcement.
Due to recent events, tonight's On the Hour has been cancelled. In its place is the one that would have gone out instead.
On the Hour.
Such is politics. It's a painful business.
On the Hour.
What you mustn't do in politics is listen to people.
It's a painful business.
On Radio 4.
Such is politics.
Let us be proud of what we have accomplished.
He is an appalling failure, and he's committed many crimes.
On the Hour with Christopher Morris.
Hello from me, Christopher Morris, and from me. And Throughout tonight's programme, we'll keep you abreast of events as they unwrinkle. But first,
the headlines.
Life Pier in wind tunnel disaster, international string lengths agreed, and Sri Lankan diplomat expelled for copying rice.
On the hour.
Plus, coming up, Margaret Thatcher explains why she went and shot all the Queen's dogs.
They came out in the streets in the hundreds of thousands. They weren't going to let go. They weren't going to let go.
And tonight's feedback campaign from you, the public, the law.
Right, today we're looking at the death penalty.
Death penalty, yes.
What do you think should be the penalty for death?
I think in some cases you should hang them.
So if you die, you should be hanged?
Yes.
And since we've been on the air, 7 more extraordinary moments have happened. Because of this, On the Hour will tonight be going out continuously. And reaction to those events has been immediate.
Finger.
Paddy Ashdown, President Bush.
Overall.
And David Steele.
Tentacles.
But, said Mr. Major.
But.
And I'm joined now on the telephone by reporter Jed Boyce, who's standing next to the hole out of which the events are emerging. Hello, Jed.
Good afternoon, MFI French Stores Guy speaking. How can I help you?
Jed, what's the latest?
Sorry?
What's the latest in the situation down there?
In respect of what?
The developing situation as it happens.
Oh, well, this promotion at the moment...
Yes?
He finishes the 28th of this month.
And who's going to be in charge when it finishes?
Mr. Morgan.
Is anyone with you at the moment?
We've got a Mr. Humphreys.
Would it be worth my while speaking to him?
Okay, if you could hold, please.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Humphreys speaking.
Good afternoon. Can you tell us any more?
Concerning what, sir?
Perhaps you could just tell me what you can see.
What's in front of me at the moment?
Yes.
For war, sir.
Is there anybody there with a gun? Hello? Oh, go away.
On the Hour, the world in a tablet.
It's 2-1. You're listening to On the Hour.
On the Hour.
On the Hour. And because of today's events, it's time for environmental news.
Green Desk.
Green News update from me, Rosie May. Events diary for this week. On Monday, there's a bat workshop and optional roost visit in Marlow. Meet at 7 p.m. by the pond. Those of you in Kilmarnock can enjoy a guided ramble round Boddock's Quarry, including a chance to draw, paint or sculpt your favourite part in the gravel workings.
Green Desk.
There's a sponsored seal cull and otter smashing expedition in the Isle of Man at the weekend. Bring a big stick and a bag.
Green Desk.
The town of Whitstable in Kent is to host a Don't Drop Litter Day. People will come from all over the country bringing large amounts of everyday litter, such as sweet wrappers and Coke tins, but not drop them. They'll carry the litter around the town, waving it proudly, and then take it home with them again. Anyone dropping some of their litter will be given a light-hearted comedy forfeit and have their heads shaved and tattooed with the words, "Enemy of Planet Earth."
Environmental news. If it's green, we'll cover it.
Thank you, Rosie. It's 1991, and due to the increased speed of recent events, the broadcast of 9 Lessons and Carols from King's College, Cambridge on Christmas Eve has been cancelled. And now over to Brian Bancroft in the test drive studio to find out which car he's been test driving this week.
I've been driving in my car. Baby, you can drive my car. Cars are cars all over the world.
Well, Chris, this week I've been test driving the new Vauxhall Nova.
I've been driving in my car. Baby, you can drive my car. Cars are cars all over the world.
And we'll be joining Brian next week as we join him again to find out what car he's been test driving on that occasion.
On the Hour leaves the apple to ripen on the bough, then harvests it at tremendous speed.
Steve Hyness with that report. Meanwhile, the speed of recent events has increased to 130. In our Oslo studio is Foreign Secretary Douglas Hurd. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Douglas Hurd. And in the last minute, we've just heard that we've received the rest of today's sports news with Alan Partridge.
This is Sports Desk, I'm Alan Partridge. The World Snooker Championships in Reading were thrown into chaos this afternoon when midway through the Steve Davis-Jimmy White quarter-final, a young child stood up in the audience and shouted, "Hold on, all this game is two blokes hitting some balls around a table for a couple of hours. Where's the entertainment value in that?" The rest of the audience realised how foolish they'd been for so many years, and the disillusioned players were unable to continue. Later on, the British Open Golf Championship was thrown into chaos today when, as Nick Faldo prepared to putt on the 17th green, a young child stood forward from the group of spectators and shouted, "What a swizz! This is just a load of old blokes in sweaters knocking a ball about with a stick." Faldo was cited later in the bar, mumbling, "What's the point of it all?" into an empty glass.
News now. Today's meeting of the United Nations was cast into turmoil when midway through a heated discussion, a small child shouted from the public gallery, "Hang on a minute, this is just a load of old men shouting at each other with those things in their ears. It's all quite pointless." Delegates were visibly shocked. There was a small outbreak of confusion. Then everybody just resigned and wandered home. Now, for the next 45 seconds, Radio 4 is splitting wavelengths. On long wave, you can hear Prayer Desk, while here on FM, we continue with full coverage of events. Terence Stamp, there's a strange synchronicity.
Leap up, lame man. Jesus and his band of musicians are #1 in the chart of heaven. On Thursday, my wife, Joyce, got her arm caught in a threshing machine, and it was ripped clean off. "Ah, ow," she cried, "my arm." "Oh, you fool," I said. "You think you suffer now without your arm. Then let us consider how much greater was the suffering of our Lord in his anxiety over the moneylenders."
To be ramming 7 acres of underfelt into the hole. Terence Stamp. And now the rest of today's news: housing, cricket, education and business.
On the Hour, campaign.
Each week, It's Your Mouth seeks public opinion on our campaign issue.
Keep the law.
People go on about tightening up the law, don't they?
Yes.
What are your feelings about that particular idea?
Well, I agree thoroughly with it.
A couple of turns or a bit more, do you say?
Well, you say a couple, I say about 6.
What effect do you think those 6 turns would have?
I would hope that it would bring them back to their senses.
Make its presence felt in their brain sack?
Yes.
So looking at it in terms of this elastic band, which would be the ideal tension? This one, number 1, this one, number 2, or this one, number 3?
2.
Number 2?
Yeah.
On the Hour, it's a magazine programme with a very broad brief.
It's 13 minutes to, and if you've just joined us, the time. On the Hour event special now continues on CFAX page 4. On this frequency, this week's audio pullout is supplied by the staff of Get a Life magazine, your guide to what to do with yourself in your free time. Dominic Fitch, as the events napkin unswivels...
Get a Life. Very interesting things to do for people with lots of spare time. Get a Life.
Truro's top tourist attraction. 3 miles from Truro on the A3076 Truro Newquay Road. Come and visit Worm World. Yes, a whole world of worms. Fun for all the family. See thousands of different worms from all over the West Country in their natural habitat, the ground. Visit Wild Worm Arena World and the hilarious French Revolution worm diorama. Our tame worms are tossed towards your hands by trained volunteers. Probably the largest collection of worms in the West Country. Worm World, Truro 0872 223 5689. You won't have to worm your way in, there's a gate.
Get a Life. Hobbies. This week's hobbyist is Clive Tubman of Hales Owen.
My hobby is that hobby of collecting different sounds of different types upon my audio cassettes that I buy at the shops. A day in my hobby can start as soon as I wake up. Ah, the alarm clock. I better tape its sound that it is making. Alarm clock, Friday the 12th of July 1991. Around midday, I usually go down to the shopping centre where all my fellow sound collectors gather to collect sounds of things. Shopping centre, 1300 hours, 12th of July.
Good morning, Claude.
Ian Dealey's voice.
I've typed some good sounds today, Clive. A prayer moving, a bird, and a stick in the gutter. I made a copy of the stick if you want to trade.
No, I've got lots of stick sounds.
Would it be possible to hear some of your favourite sounds?
Interviewer's voice speaking, 1507. Yes, thank you for asking. They can be heard. They are sounds, after all.
Yeah. No, I mean, can you play some of them to us now?
Oh, all right. Sounds being heard, 1508. This one is the sound of an old woman's face slapping against the windscreen of my speeding car. It was very hard to get. I had to do it 4 or 5 times, and on one of the times, I'd forgotten to switch on my recorder. Do you want to hear it?
No. I actually think we'd better be going.
Bored? Want weekend fun? Strongly disapprove of traffic congestion? Like hats with yellow and black enamel badges on them?
Then the sealed clamp is for you.
Every weekend we meet up, don the uniforms of the great traffic wardens of London and reenact classic vehicular confrontations.
But I was only away for 2 minutes.
You could have blocked the passage of a fire engine and caused hundreds to die in an inferno, you thoughtless fascist.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
I didn't realise this was a no parking zone.
Oh, well, I didn't realise this Uzi was loaded.
Yes, it's a fun weekend of gridlock untangling mayhem. Clamp the Porsche. Put a ticket on that Lamborghini. For more information about the sealed clamp, ring 075 257525. That's the ticket.
And now the Get a Life guide to free events around the country.
September the 5th, Stylish Names Day, the Lake District. Fed up with your unstylish name like Ian, Alec, Keith, Graham, or Sarah if you're a woman? Well, never mind. Come along to the Lake District, where in the beautiful surroundings you can pretend to have a different and stylish name for a day on your own. You could be Rock, Crispin, Trevor, Spanky McFarland, or Sarah if you're a woman. And it's free. Remember to organise your own food, accommodation and transport, and to be on your own.
September the 9th, Shape and Colour Free Home Think Tank Hour. Stay at home on your own for an hour and think about shapes and some colours. And it's free. Remember, black and white are not colours in the true sense.
September 12th, Farnham Malting's Texture Afternoon for kids and pensioners. Kids are still developing their sense of touch, and old people may have lost theirs, so how can either group be expected to choose the ideal lounge or bedroom furniture covering fabric? Texture volunteers at the Maltings Farnham will blindfold and gag all guests on the day and rub differently textured objects against the sensitive areas of the old people's and children's texturally underdeveloped bodies. Fancy a pumice stone on your eye, a hamster against the rough skin on the bottom of your feet, the mess from the inside of the nozzle of a modern garden hose against your thigh or genital? Then get along on the day, but only if you are a child or very old.
On the hour, the audio pullout is now complete.
Welcome back to On the Hour, Events Plus. Coming up over the next strand of programming, another disturbing report on childcare from our reporter Kevin Smear.
This is obviously painful for you to talk about, but please continue to talk about it.
What do you want me to say then?
Just say how unhappy you are with the present situation.
I'm very unhappy with the present situation.
Plus, we talk to the butcher from Islip for whom meat spells danger.
The next thing I knew, it went off in my hands.
But the main story today has, of course, been the continuous unravelling of events. Earlier today, I spoke to Foreign Secretary Douglas Hurd for his response.
The local farmer's Angus bull had farmed me and thought it was great fun to roll me down the riverbank and in toward the river and me still inside a damn bag. Needless to say, you've never seen anyone come out of a sleeping bag faster than I got out of that one.
Douglas Hurd. The rest of today's news is read by the continuity announcer. Scientists today are claiming a major breakthrough in head transplant surgery. The operation involved replacing the head of a mouse with a human finger. Digit donor Slap Tantrum said, "At first I was disconcerted by the absence of my right index finger, but I felt much better when I saw it scampering around a cage on the end of a mouse." WAG technicians, who call the new animal sconce knuckle, declared the operation a complete success and insist the finger-face rodent is delighted with its new shape. But slaphead behaviour baron Des Morris is deeply concerned. These people should have learned their lesson when they tried to equip a dog with the neck of an earwig. Mammals are vain creatures, and with no face, the sconce knuckle will feel deeply humiliated and could start running into things in fits of self-loathing. The dog drowned itself after assuming it had turned into a fish. New education proposals announced this morning will require all primary school infants to play golf. The Education Secretary said it's a matter of irrefutable fact that no one has ever been educated under a Labour government.
This is Sports Desk. I'm Alan Partridge. Fishing news.
Shut up, Alan. I want you to stop. News has just come through, and I'm afraid it's war. This report from our reporter, Peter Porter.
It's the High Priest of Battles. It started when the minister cut the ribbon and declared the war open. My name's Peter Porter. This is my war. Blinking like a groggy giraffe with dust in its eye caught in the 7,000-watt beam of a low-flying aircraft on the darkest night of the year, I stumbled from my bunker this morning. The bunker I had dug with the men from the battalion. Good men, strong men, each one capable of pulling the trunk off a cock elephant at 30 yards. And now, my comrades and friends too, allowing me to wear combat clothes and run ahead of the tanks into battle. As I speak, swarms of missiles narrowly miss my head. There goes one. I'm running over to see now how many of my new friends are just so much charred flesh and bone. My right arm's just been blown off. There's a camera crew. Look at me. Look at me. My right arm's just been blown off. Thank you. And on. Into battle. Oh, there goes my other arm. The sound you can hear now is my lower torso being vaporized, but never mind. It's not my safety that counts. Information is paramount. Strap my head to the rocket and blast me into the center of battle. 13 megaton warheads exploding all around. Rivers of blood. I counted them out. Oh, sorry, the sound effects broken. Bugger. Sodding sound effects.
On the hour. In the thick of the action, with a microphone.
And I believe the press conference is about to start. We'll join them now.
Oh. You're looking good like I knew you would. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, can I have the first question, please?
How many baddies are dead?
Good question, Sonny. My favorite weapon is called Snark. It's an intelligent missile capable of blowing up people in 3 languages. You'll see on this piece of combat film how it steers itself through the air vent into the towelhead's mouth, through the lung, and into the heart, where it explodes with so little collateral damage he doesn't even realize he's dead. Price $3 billion. Sorry, no more questions. You've been a great audience. Back after this word.
On the hour tells you what happens when people start fighting.
And our strategy correspondent is on the line now, Michael Blatt. Michael, who are you standing next to?
I'm standing next to... What's your name?
Michael.
Michael, who's a situation expert. Michael, what's going on in this war as we look at it?
Well, what I can see is just people walking around and you have traffic going past.
Who do you think's got the upper hand in the war?
The traffic, to a certain degree.
Strategically, how are these people involved?
Oh, well, put it this way. One side of the street, they're okay. But on the other side, there's a bit congested there. And it's a bit awkward for some people with prams, just as that lady there, to go past other people.
How many people will be killed tomorrow in this senseless mess?
Well, it'd be hard to say. I mean, as I'm looking now, I can see a lot of people just walking past now and taking a risk.
Tomorrow they could be just another victim of the war.
Well, that's true, yeah.
What can be done to improve matters in general?
If there was more thought given to pedestrians... Yes.
Then there may be no more war.
Well, yeah, probably so, yeah.
Well, Michael, thanks very much for taking the time to stand in the middle of this war and talk to us.
Yeah, okay, no worries.
On the hour, front row seats in the Stadium of War.
Michael Blatt reporting from the war. And Radio 1 disc jockey Wayne Carr is visiting the men and relaying messages home. Hello, Wayne. There's a lot of noise. Can you hear me?
Well, I'm not sure about that, John, but I can tell you something. It's pretty noisy out here.
Well, I'll stop talking then and let you just get on with it.
Look, I think it's probably best if you stop talking and let me get on with it then.
Yeah, that's just what I...
And now, Radio 1 presents... Live from the middle of a war... Wayne Carr!
right, we're out here today in the middle of the war with the man of the 52nd Combat Corps. Gotta tell you, they're a great bunch of guys, and we're getting along great guns, aren't we, fellas?
Yes.
Counting every single one of them as a genuine friend. And doing their request today, not allowed to play Puff the Magic Dragon because it reminds everybody of flamethrowers, but I'm going to cram in as many of your dedications as possible because I've got a very strong feeling that most of you will, in a word, be shuttling off your brief candle in next to no time. All right, so what's your name?
Private Colin Snope. I'm on the radio, mate.
Nice for you to talk to me, Cole. And who's the beaver?
Michelle Drebs. Michelle Norwich.
So she lives in Norwich, huh?
No stands for knickers off for anyone. I'll come home.
Yep, I knew that all along, actually. Nice message for you there, Mish. And luckily that one was on tape because... And I'd change your name as soon as you can, Michelle, to protect your identity. You see, just a couple of hours ago, Colin was just literally blown apart by a rocket. You may be comforted to know his bloody head screamed something which sounded a little bit like your name as it flew through the air. And let's just hope that there's somebody in England you could, I guess, snuggle up close to and enjoy the comforts of carnal abandon with, in much the same way as you did with Colin. Let's face it, they're all the same with the light off. Meanwhile, it's time for us to collect up the remains and play.
Radio 1. Now, not even our news service can be everywhere at once. That's where interpreters like war composers come in. Men who travel to the lines to experience the harsh realities of war, then communicate those realities in the form of music. This year's official war composer is Michael Philip Neumann, and here's a repetitive from his work entitled War Goes Bang.
War goes bang.
Goes a man with a gun in his hand, shooting at another man who falls over with the shock of the slug hitting him in the chest. Dum 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 is the name of the bullet used, having a notch cut in the tip to maximize the ballistic effect. 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2. People get nervous and stutter. Bomb 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 bomb. Bombs fall onto the ground. E-R E-R E-R. Donkeys get in the way. Da 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 da. This would be proud of the mess. And the heavy question people always ask about war is, will it ever? The war.
What's next?
I don't know.
Closing music.
Just time for tomorrow's headlines. The Times, three-faced man in cowboy attraction racket. There's a picture there of one of the man's faces looking cross. The Independent lead with bark shop decisions leave Wessex in tatters. The Sun, Douglas turd. Today, opt for Soweto snooker troll provides wildlife hesitation. And finally, The Mirror, chopstick agony for sump attendant. On the Hour continues on this frequency. If you wish to hear Radio 4's normal programmes, here's a packet of sand and a piece of old skin. That's it. I am Christopher Morris. Christopher Morris, I am.
And there'll be more on those stories next week. On the Hour featured Chris Morris, Steve Coogan, David Schneider, Patrick Marber, Doon McKeon, Rebecca Front and Sergeant Murphy. It was written by Chris Morris, Stuart Lee, Richard Herring, Stephen Wells, Andrew Glover, Armando Iannucci and David Quantick, and was produced by Armando Iannucci.
Welcome to the Museum of Everything.
Please don't touch the buffalo head mounted on the wall of the orangery. Despite appearances, it isn't dead yet.
For fascinating facts.
Not many people know that jazz is actually rock and roll, played by people who've totally forgotten how the tune goes.
And entertaining characters.
Come here, boy. Closer. A little bit more. Now give us a kiss.
Visit Marcus Brigstock, Danny Robbins and Dan Tetzel in the Museum of Everything.
They say you shouldn't allow the mentally ill to wander into the lion enclosure, but that's just madness gone politically correct.
Starts in Friday Night's Comedy Club at 11, here on BBC 7.
And the series which is beginning in the Comedy Club on Friday night is Series 2, which has never gone out on BBC 7 before.
Brand new comedy on BBC 7.
Witty and Twisted is a showcase of some of the most exciting new comedy talent that we've seen in a long time.
It's a bit like Funhouse for grown-ups.
10 new comedies from top new writer performers.
It's going to have a hugely diverse range of new material.
Bits and pieces from people who have no agenda other than to be funny.
We were so impressed with the level of applications that we received. We could probably have made the series 3 times over.
Witty